As African Center, and currently based in Australia, a lot of people have been president, management committee, and everything. You see, what people are saying very, very new to me. I've never heard of a name Saxon. This is the first time I've heard.
Yeah, it's a new problem.
We are totally isolated. The way I'm looking at things now, West London is totally isolated.
Yes.
Not just West London. Not just West London.
Really, I don't know what to say, you know.
Just to answer that, I think we have this kind of issue. At the last meeting we had with Glasgow Council, part of our problem in the African community is because of the fact that most of us do not have a community. We are from different areas, unlike the Asians that have their community, the Jews that have their community. I think that is part of the problem.
You mean community-based?
Community-based.
Yeah, we used to have before the council took it away from us like Africans.
Because like I
if you can create a new one, that will be good.
But like I said, we have this kind of issue in Glasgow, and we actually find a way to bring those people who attended that meeting under the umbrella. This is the first meeting of this is the first meeting we'll be having of this caliber, you know, in Edinburgh. So probably I'm kind of disappointed that most of us are saying that we've not heard about sector. It's just we are just under a year though.
Yeah.
But like I said, part of the problem is because we do not have a community base like the other ethnic minority.
Well, I agree with you. There's something else I want to say. As soon as I heard the word policy and decision making, I was very, very grateful to hear these words coming in, because this is where we are seriously lacking. You are talking about somebody having a base and all this. It's very good enough. But policy and decision making, we don't have people in those high areas. None at all. I've been securely talking about it when I was in Edinburgh, up till when I went to Australia. Up till now, I'm still saying it. This is the very, very area we are very, very lacking. If we have people in those areas, I tell you, we'll be running like anything else. We will contribute more than what we are. The base that we have in Edinburgh, a lot of people, they are not secured in those areas, and they were high learned people. They always go down to south. Very, very lacking. This is what we are actually missing. You say you need Africans to participate in this or that. We've been crying of this for years. Securing job for their families, and up to that, Scotland is very, very difficult to do that. They are all down either England or somewhere else. So unless you settle this type of stuff, we're going to be in limbo. An African to be in a place of responsibility in Scotland, it's going to be a laughing matter. It's not unless maybe somebody comes out of this to say this is to happen, then you will get a lot of our people here.
Okay.
Those who think are doing very efficient in contributing to the best of Scotland.
Okay. Now, sorry, what do I call you?
Sorry.
Thank you very much. Now, what I want us to look at, I'll come back to you. What I want us to look at is this. Don't forget, we are talking about getting engaged in the policy making. We have been talking, expressing our views. Can we just allow the officers to express their own view, please? Then we'll come back to those questions.
I've got a question.
Okay.
You've already said that there's quite a wide and diverse network, community network out there. Can I ask then, what's your view of what are the real barriers to linking with either the proposed new community planning structures or the previous community planning structures? What are the real issues that stop people from your communities becoming involved?
Okay.
I think if you ask me, I think the real issue is what I said before. We don't have a unified umbrella. Let me use the word at a council level or government level that coordinates all this together. my father-in-law rightly said, you see, there are lots of communities, there are a lot of societies, associations everywhere, you know, that cater for Africans, you know, from one region to the other. What we're looking for now is an umbrella at government level to kind of synchronize all of these associations together. That's the only way we can have one voice.
And I think another issue that has been raised is because of the previous meeting that has been held, nothing come out of it. And if there's not, if you're having a meeting and nothing is changed, people get fed up. And they just don't bother. They'll be like, what happened to the previous meeting? What happened to those 3 ladies that used their money to fund something and they let down?
I still truly think it's still down to the unified umbrella, like I say.
Yeah,
If
well,
we've had a meeting here,
yes.
and the governing body, I'll use the word the governing body or the umbrella body, goes back out and say, this is the meeting we've had, these are decisions which we raised, these are minutes from the meeting, and it populates to all of these local groups.
Yeah.
So everybody knows what's happening,
Yeah.
everybody knows what's been decided, and everybody knows what's the way forward, and what inputs each of these associations needs to provide to enable, you know, or to further whatever cause we're looking at.
Yeah, thank you. You know, because what you're saying now is coming to us. This is what we've been advocating for years, an umbrella. Like I said, you know, I think if you go back to the other policy makers, there is a forum. We used to have one here in Edinburgh, you know, before we start having African Community Center, which is an umbrella for everybody, because it's not just only Africans, Caribbean Center. There are Sudanese community under the group, there are Zimbabwe community, Gambia community. All these communities are still there. Never mind all those other associations naming themselves this. We consider ourselves as African Scottish, Afro-Scots, and that many years ago was the name we've called ourselves. This link can be if we have an umbrella, and we've been talking about that, a venue where we call this is ours, this is a base. Any information you want to get, you want to know of people to participate in consultation or what have you, you know where to go, and then you can contact us through there, and then you will see us in masses. So if you can create that forum for us, a base, then most of all these issues you are talking about, you know, will be sorted.
Thank you very much, Reverend.
I can talk about the barriers, maybe to engage or be part of those structures for people maybe to be able to talk about their issues, needs. And I think I was involved in the previous community planning, and that structure was working really well, because community planning always engage with big network, with large number of small grassroots organizations, mostly community organizations, and we have been having like the consultation directly, where we contribute directly because we are representing and we bring our volunteers and whatever. So we feel that our issues are passed clearly, and then now there is a new structure for this. Community planning is not, I think they changed the structure. With the existing structure, we feel that we are kind of isolated. I'm not talking about only African people, because we are just a small sector from ethnic minority people. So it became very difficult for us to be able to crack this kind, because it looks like a closed circuit. We try to maybe to talk to people, to encourage some people to be recruited. We don't know how they recruit people to be members of those either neighborhood or community councils or whatever. So it's not clear. Most of the community consultations are just online, and you can't ask people in the community to go online and talk about their issues. We try sometimes to go to council websites and send to people, but also it's very difficult. The best way, for example, maybe to have a meeting, if for example, if Saxon is representing, hopefully will represent majority of African and Caribbean organization, and to be honest, all the people talk about maybe those difficulties, because we are 45 countries. It's very difficult to bring all the people together.
52
But we have been trying maybe to bring people together. So if, for example, if the council working with network and groups, like the way where community planning used to work, or maybe networks or group, then people will be able maybe to pass their views and issues and needs and challenges and something like that. Also, if maybe the recruitment process is a little bit more, I don't know, I don't want to say more transparent, but I don't know how it happened. Who has been selected and how they have been selected? How those people being selected in community council are representing the externality, their views and their issues. I think these are the issues because there is no way to reach to this structure. And maybe the people who will reach this structure, there is no guarantee that the people are playing maybe the views of the majority. So I think these are the things. Because to be honest, I have been working in community development since 2002. And now I don't understand what is going on. Because I'm trying to we created a meeting with the Glasgow City Council. Until now, we haven't been able to put anybody for community council or neighborhood council, whatever. And I don't know about how they recruit. So many things are not clear. And this is why this is a difficult.
I think there's maybe two different levels within Edinburgh, and one of them is at that city-wide level, where you think you need a place, you need somewhere where everybody can come together, all the information can get out. And I think that's maybe something that in the old community planning structures, maybe there's been a bit of a breaking down of that within Edinburgh. Yeah. But I know there is an equality and rights network within the Edinburgh Community Planning Partnership, and I think that's probably, Councillor, where we need to have this next iteration of this next discussion would be at a city-wide level to say, what do we need across the whole of Edinburgh? Yeah. Once we've got that, then we can get down to the more difficult issues about community councils and who becomes a community councillor and what does a community council do at the very local level that Mike and Evelyn and I work at. But to answer your question, anybody, I mean in Edinburgh, if you put your hand up and say, I want to be a community councillor, pretty much you become a community councillor. There's no difficulty to it. And that's the closed circle. But I think if we had this city-wide place where everybody from the African and Caribbean community could come to, then we as council officers could come and say, you want to be a community councillor, you stay in Pilton, okay, I'll bring you along, I'll show you who you need to talk to. Mm-hmm. And then that would be the next stage of it. So I think there definitely is something we could do.
You're absolutely right on that. Sorry, this is very important. You're absolutely right on that. I think you are not aware of this because you are not in Edinburgh, you're in Glasgow. The EREC has put on so many meetings, consultation to show people how to be a councillor and how to shadow people. You know, so as you said, it's no brainer. If you want to be a councillor, that's very simple, it's easy. If you want to be part of, even if you want to be the first minister, that's easy. There's a way on to do that. They will show you how to do that. That's not an issue, that's the little issue. Until we have a bigger umbrella to discuss issues, then you won't be able to get onto that nitty-gritty.
Frankly speaking, I'm one of the community councillors now in West Lothian.
There you go.
There are a lot of areas to cover.
So many councillors.
I'm not going to say anything now, so I'll leave it for all of you to think seriously about it.
Yeah.
Because our voices should be heard, but not yet at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Can I just say something following on from what we've all said? We've talked about having an umbrella body, which is a very good thing. It's kind of like a contact point for us to be reached. So following on from that, because others have said something about even when we come forward, my own concern is, are we accepted? Will there be acceptance? So even if we come forward and we say, oh, we want to be involved in policy making, we want to be, we want to engage, with our community, with policies that concern our community. Where is the acceptance? If I apply, for instance, to be on the board or for my local community center or whatever it is, would I be accepted Is there like a quota? You know, do we have a? I think having a quota system that allows us for us to be given maybe like even 5%, 10% representation. Because if we just go on and we say, because to be honest, we're still minority. We have a lot, but then the fact still remains that we're still a minority. So if I go in and I'm contesting, I've applied for a position on the board of something, whatever, and I'm just there with, and this is supposed to be like maybe a position to be voted for, and then I come with like 50, you know, and then they're like 200. What chance, 200, like Scottish, or what chance have I got? But I think if we're given like a quota, say okay, like we want like a representation from the Afro-Caribbean community, we want representation from the Asian community. I think that way we can be involved. We can actually, because it's kind of like automatic for us to be on that board. It's kind of fair. But if we're just saying, if we're not accepted, no matter how much we put ourselves forward to engage, we're still not going to get anywhere. We're still not going to be able to be involved in policy making. I mean, I'm still doing social work at the moment, and I see a lot of issues. I do, in fact, every day, it's just, it's a big learning. It's an eye opener. There are so many issues facing the Black community, the ethnic community. It's, but the policies are just not in support. The policies are not just, they're not helpful. And a lot of people, I do advocacy, independent advocacy, with my own time. Even before I came into this meeting, I just like signposted somebody to abuse the main, Scotland, because his children have been taken away. There's no legal representation. It's just, it's sad. And a lot of, mental health issues coming out of all these issues. It's just, I don't know. I don't know where we. I just hope that we'll be able to get somewhere, and our voices are actually heard, and the policies support people of our communities.
Okay, I think that question is noted. Just quickly.
Just to maybe add, or am I addressing or answering the question either ways? I think it all boils down to the fact that we want our voices to be heard. And for our voices to be heard, the fact that if we say, well, as an ethnic minority, we think we are being relegated to the background in some areas or some spheres of society or in some economic policies, the forum, we're meeting here today to discuss how we can positively influence decisions as an ethnic minority. And one of the decisions which we can positively influence or make just now is the fact that we can jointly say, as an ethnic minority, we're coming out to say, in social sphere or social sector of the economy, we want to be represented or want 2% representation. And the government can go back and look at that and say, okay, is it possible? Can we do this? And come back and say, okay, going forward, if our voice is heard, based on that, we give you 2% representation across board. And that states, if for every relative, application that's made, that 2% representation is left for ethnic minorities, or rather from African ethnic minorities. But for us to achieve that, we need to come together and make these decisions and put them forward. And I think that's what we're lacking. Coming together, making a decision, and putting them forward. So I think it's two sides of the coin. The first part is coming together. The other part is the umbrella body, which I keep stressing it. Which we go to with this decision to say, this is what we've reached as an ethnic minority. And then I'll take it formally to the government to say, hey, the ethnic minority have met, and this is their decision. And the discussion, the dialogue goes forward, and then we get feedback to say, hey, we think based on what you've advised, and we've reviewed your ideas, and the policy now states that way forward is what we're going to do. I just think we need to put ourselves together to be able to achieve that goal.
Okay, thank you. That's noted. Thank you. Okay, any comment from the other side?
I think there's several issues there,
okay.
And I think there's what you could have as an aspiration, and obviously if you're going to have a centre, then that's got to be planned for. And I think, I'm hearing what you're saying, and I think there's also the information aspect of that in terms of given a focus and a provenance perhaps, so that people know where to go and to find things out. I mean, the community council is an interesting one because that's there now and people can engage with it now. And community councils, I mean, the other half of that is that community councils have issues across the board with the fact that they're largely seen as unrepresentative of any community in the city. And it tends to be people who have an issue with one particular thing that join it because they're angry about that. And then that tends to, they're perceived as a very unrepresentative group in the community. And some of them are not like that, that's unfair, but they are seen as that. So it's not just that they're not representing African and Caribbean voices, they're seen as not representing really any voices. And so it's unlikely that there would be any resistance to joining because by and large you don't even have enough for the biggest risk to a community council is not having the minimum number of people to make it viable and under threat of disbanding. Certainly, in my local area, the difficulty is getting people to join. And so I used to be one, and you just basically walk straight in there. And you can also co-opt people on as well. But the other thing that you were saying is very interesting, and that there isn't, if you have a sort of compulsory quota, if you like, for multicultural representation, that's another way of going, and it also makes it clear that you have that representation on these groups and organisations. So I think that's really worth thinking about.
And that, thank you very much. And that issue of quota comes into the issue even employment within the City of Edinburgh Council. In the past, we had a contract agreement with the City of Edinburgh Council that if Africans wants to have some experience, some work experience, the council will take them. Because we look at 6% of African Caribbean in Scotland, Edinburgh. If you look at the main workforce in different organizations, they are not up to 1 or 2%. So that was one of the challenges we treated the government, and they now say, okay, some of these people haven't got the experience, but how can the council help them? So there was an agreement, signed, contract, that okay, let those people come in to learn the process. That if there's any opening internally, they can apply, at least so that we can improve or increase their employment percentage. But at a point, it just stopped. It never happened again. So we want to see how we can reactivate this process so that our people can be more engaged and involved. Because that comes to the question that was raised, that what are the barriers to getting the African Caribbean community involved? So that one is very important. And also on the issue of benefit, which we, as much as possible, encourage our members not to do if they have the means. There are many people who have worked so hard, worked all their life. Some of them are pensioners, they pay their taxes, pay their insurance, NI, and when they apply for benefit, other housing or tax benefit, they get rejected. And they will leave the City of Edinburgh Council, they will go to another area outside, and they now apply for it, and they get it. So that has been one of the problems that our people are having. So with the way we are going forward, I think we should be able to have a common voice to present some of these things and how people can help us. Then after today, what happens next? So,
sorry, Pastor,
yeah.
Quickly, I'm just going to put that point in. Do you know the City of Edinburgh Council helped the Chinese community to have an elderly home? And when we requested for our elderly people, because we have a lot of elderly African Caribbean community, they said no, we couldn't get any. So until, like you were saying here, to get together among ourselves and the community, our people lay back and do want to get involved because they didn't see any coincident or any strong member of the councillors or the Scottish government who are ready actually to sympathize or empathize with us, to get a base, to understand our feelings. So when there's nobody coincident, nobody out there, they will just see back. That's why you see them in parties and functions. So that's the only thing we have. But if you say now today, because I have a list of about 10 community groups which I can actually show anybody who's interested. To say this group are still here, even in Edinburgh here, But they could not see anybody from the Scottish government interested in them. City of Edinburgh Council abandoned us because there's nobody there who's passionate, who wants to help the African Caribbean community. So why should we come into any meeting that you guys are holding to bring us together? So if we know from the Council of the Scottish government that we have people we can rely on, you know, the Godfather or Godmother,
Yes.
what have you, yeah, you will see everybody coming together.
Okay.
Well, you don't have your voice. That's just it.
Well, can I just
Okay, yeah, okay.
just to support the point that the pastor made. I remember vividly in the meeting we had with the Glasgow City Council that somebody raised the point of students, for example. We have loads of African Caribbean students that actually study in Scotland and they finish their education in Scotland, and we discovered that most of them were actually moving to England. They finished their education in Scotland and they were moving to England for jobs. So that is just part of the problem we are actually facing.
And in addition to that, some that want to set up enterprise, some have the fund, some have the means, but they are not getting the right support, the right advice. We have investors that want to come and invest here. Some have sent their children to be trained here, and they've received the quality training from Scotland. Brick and mortar institutions train them, and their parents want to invest either in property or in some business for them to manage, to enable them acquire the knowledge. But sometimes they don't get this advice. So I think we are getting somewhere with this type of meeting. And that is why I'm asking, what next after today's meeting? Because the time is, we need to get to the end of it quickly.
What, as I say, I hadn't realised that this would be what this week would be like. I thought it was kind of a welcome sort of thing, but I'm really glad that we've had it, and I'm hearing a lot of this for the first time. So what I'm saying to you is, you know, I don't know what I'm going to do about it right now, because I'm hearing but what I've got is a lot to think about. So I've listened to everything that you've said, and I'm quite upset at the idea of abandoning the African Caribbean community, and so that's really serious. So we have to work out how we can turn that around, and so I will be taking that lead and trying to pursue this. And it's good that we now have collaborative friends. So I think I've taken a lot from this and certainly personally, and therefore I'm very glad that we've had it, and I've heard what all of you have had to say. But I can't commit now to exactly how I'm going to solve these problems, but at least I know what the problems are.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, at least we have to agree on the follow-up, so we have your details and we'll give you our emails, and then we can just think about the follow-up. Maybe later we can, now so many people from Edinburgh, later we can organize a bigger meeting where we can have maybe good number, maybe up to 50, maybe in another big room. And I think we'll communicate with you about maybe what the people said here, and also what you might be able to help us with. And you can also tell us about what you need to do for this group after you heard it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we have to bring people from the Scottish government, the Minister of Equality, or whoever is ready for community councils and stuff, to come into our meetings. I mean, you councillors can help us to get people from the Scottish government to come to our meetings. We need them too.
Thank you very much. Mr. Arimi, please. I hope there's no question again, so that we can round up. I will appreciate if you can, on behalf of African Caribbeans, to give a vote of thanks to the councillor and the officials who have come here.
Maybe still some people need to say something.
Okay, just apologies. I've got to get to another meeting, so it's been a pleasure meeting, and hopefully we'll meet again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm happy to say something to you. You were looking at me. I suppose just to reiterate Councillor Wilson's point about us coming along today from a local perspective and not really knowing 100% what to expect. But I think, and I'm sure Mike's obviously left, the one person that was missing in terms of covering the city was Sarah Burns, who covers the southeast of the city, but we're obviously from all 4 areas of the city, and just hearing generally all the points that you've raised, go away much more, I suppose, informed. It was very valuable from my perspective in terms of hearing some of the specifically the issues that you were talking about in terms of our difficulty in engaging people, and to reiterate Councillor Wilson's point about community councils generally. And I think just to say, I know appreciate the meeting's about to end, but just to say from the role that we do, the job that we do as locality managers is about trying to recognise the importance of those community planning structures in terms of people having a voice, but also looking out with that. So our role very much is about trying to support meaningful community engagement across all sectors, across all areas of our communities and communities of interest. So we're really keen. I know that Mike asked a question about, what are the issues to engagement. For us, it's about listening and learning. And Councillor McNeice Meehan spoke specifically about one of the concerns that we're experiencing in the northeast of the city, which is from one of our the initiatives that we've been delivering around participatory budgeting, which is looking out to the local community to make decisions about how we fund local projects. And one of the lessons that we've learned actually from that is specifically that multicultural organisations don't feel that their voices are being heard and they're represented. So we're very much doing a specific piece of work around that. But I know that generally, our work is about promoting equalities, about tackling those issues that you talked about in terms of health inequalities, economy, employability, engagement. So that's very much our job, working with our partners to try to improve and to hear voices from those communities who don't feel that they are being heard. So I myself have found this really interesting. I'd be really keen to participate in any further discussions that there will be.
Thank you very much, Evelyn. Thank you, Evelyn. Thank you very much.
Just a small question: how to get involved in this participatory budgeting?
So in terms of participatory budgeting, there's a number of, I suppose, initiatives that are being delivered across the city. They tend to be, some are citywide, but so for example, there's one which is involving young people across the city, making decisions about how budgets are spent, but a lot of the time they're in smaller geographic areas. We talked about neighbourhood partnerships before, and relatively small sums of money, although we're looking as a city to expand on that whole participatory budgeting process. So that will be will involve, we hope, greater numbers and higher budgets. But currently we tend to have sort of smaller, I would say, geographical budgets. So I just spoke about Leith, and I'd be very much interested in taking your contact details and maybe talking about out with this meeting around that, because we're very keen, as I say, to try to engage locally, I suppose, in a way that people feel that their voices are heard and that they can participate actively. And a lot of the time we don't appreciate the barriers that are there, so we feel that we're actually doing everything we can when we're not, because clearly we're not able to say that everybody was engaged in a way that we would like to. So I think just now I represent, there's 3 neighbourhood partnerships in my area. I think there's 4 in Peters, 2 in Mike. So certainly if I can get your contact details, we can probably tell you a bit more about the individual participatory budgeting processes that are going on within our areas, because there may well be organisations locally that we're not engaging with that we should. So I don't know if that helps.
That helps.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have your details, your card?
Yeah, I'll give you that at the end.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, who's putting all this together so that we can know what is going to happen next time? What time are we going to, what's the time frame of our next meeting and all the rest of it?
I think what will probably happen is we will probably have it to the second network, and so that whatever information is shared, whatever information we have is shared to you. We will probably have a brief talk after this meeting.
Okay. Sorry to the councillors. Can I just say to you, see this law provost man here? He was one of the wonderful law provosts ever. He was very, very good to us. I recognize some of them here, but I don't want to name. What's his name again? Eric. That's right. Really, he was one of the best law provosts. He used to help us. And Leslie was good to Leslie. Leslie Hines.
I think Ross, the new law provost, Ross, has been trying to engage with us. Because we've launched a report in his office. He volunteered his chambers for us to launch a report.
Yeah, okay. So we've not been feeling him yet. I'm following.
Well, on behalf of the Afro-Caribbean voices, I'm very, very grateful. In fact, personally, for me, I'm very, very grateful. This is the first time I've had an initiative or policies that are very, very dear to me. Policies and decision making in high level. In fact, this is a story everyone should carry about. Please, 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 we are very grateful to the councillors and the officers who are here with us. And you know, this is the first meeting we are having. But particularly, I have no idea of this, what is it called? Assassin. I've never heard it. In West Lothian, the only people who were that carry out the initiative in West Lothian is actually community planning. They do a lot of this. That's why we set up West Lothian Community Camp, FOE. And that is where you can see Africans coming in to say what they want to say. But it's a difficult organization actually to get people together to say what they want to do. So I'm saying that I'm very, very grateful that we have all of you here. And the way forward lies on you lot and us as well. So that when you call us, you appreciate and come in and say what we need and what we need to participate and contribute effectively to the success of either council or Scottish government or anything else. So on behalf of the chair as well, I'm very, very grateful that we had this discussion. And may it continue. And that's what I'm praying for. Thank you.
I think there's lunch, isn't it? No lunch?